The moment my father handed my brother a $12 million company, everyone in the room started clapping. What they didn't know, I already owned the debt that could destroy it overnight. And in exactly 72 hours, my brother would realize the company he'd just celebrated inheriting was never really his. The applause hadn't even died down when I took my first sip of wine. I was standing near the fireplace in my parents' living room, watching my brother Derek soak it all in like sunlight. 40 people filled the house, family friends, business associates, people who had watched us grow up, and every single one of them believed they were witnessing a legacy being passed down. My father stood beside him, proud, steady, certain. He just announced that Derek was now the full owner of Callaway Construction. $12 million, 30 years of work, all of it handed over in a single moment. Derek smiled the way he always did when life handed him something he didn't earn, easy, confident, untouched by doubt. His wife clung to his arm, already looking around the room like she belonged at the top of it. I stayed quiet. I watched as hands were shaken, as congratulations were offered, as my mother dabbed her eyes with a napkin like this was something beautiful. And through all of it, my father never looked at me, not once. Across the room, my Uncle Frank caught my eye. There was something in his expression, something careful, the kind of look people have when they know something isn't right, but also know they can't stop it. I gave him a small smile, because the truth was, I didn't need anyone to stop it, not anymore. My name is Rachel. I'm 31 years old, and I'm a corporate attorney specializing in mergers, acquisitions, and debt restructuring, which in simple terms means this. I know exactly what a dying company looks like from the inside. I know how the numbers start slipping, how the debt stacks quietly, how banks lose patience and start making moves behind closed doors. And 18 months ago, while my father was still believing everything was fine, I saw Callaway Construction collapsing in real time. The difference is, he didn't call me. He called Derek. Flew him in from Denver, sat him at the head of the conference table like he was already in charge, let him talk for 3 hours, confident, polished, completely unprepared. And I know that because while all of that was happening, I was sitting in my apartment 40 minutes away watching the company's public filings fall apart in real time. Numbers don't lie, and those numbers were screaming. Missed projections, tightening liquidity, covenants getting dangerously close to violation. Callaway Construction wasn't struggling. It was 6 weeks from collapse. Derek didn't have a solution. He had charm, confidence, a decent golf handicap. And my father accepted all three like they were strategy. He thanked him, paid for his hotel, sent him home. And then the bank called me. Not my father, not Derek, me. Because by that point, I had already done something neither of them could have imagined. 18 months before that night in the living room, before the champagne, before the applause, I reached out to Meridian Capital. They were holding Callaway Construction's commercial loan, $4.2 million, and I bought it. Full face value, 7 years of 80-hour weeks, 200 billable hours a month, every dollar I had built, quietly, patiently, went into that one move. Overnight, I became something no one in my family saw coming. Not the overlooked daughter, not the one in the background. I became the bank, the creditor, the single entity with the legal authority to call the entire debt, trigger default, and unravel everything my father had built. I didn't announce it, didn't warn anyone. I structured it through a holding company they'd never heard of, because I knew one day I might need leverage. And standing there in that living room, watching my brother celebrate a company he didn't save, I realized something with absolute clarity. That day had arrived. About 20 minutes after the announcement, my sister-in-law found me near the bookshelf. She was holding a fresh glass of champagne, her smile perfectly measured, the kind people wear when they've already decided they've won. "Are you okay?" she asked. Not gently, not sincerely, the way you ask someone when you're hoping the answer is no. I met her eyes and smiled. "I'm wonderful." I asked about her drive up from the city, casual, effortless. She studied my face for a second, searching for cracks. There weren't any. I'd spent 7 years in rooms full of people trained to find weakness. She wasn't going to succeed in under 20 seconds. She moved on. My father didn't. He approached differently. No smile, no small talk. He stepped beside me, shoulder to shoulder, just like he used to when I was a kid and he was about to say something final. "I hope you understand," he said. "This was a business decision." I nodded slowly. Of course. He started explaining Derek's vision: expansion, new markets, residential developments, a project in Phoenix he'd supposedly been building toward for 2 years. Energy, that's what the company needed, and apparently Derek had it. I let him finish. Then I asked one question. What's his plan for the debt? It was small, simple, but it landed. My father paused, just for a second, but I noticed seconds like that. It's part of what I do. "We're working through options," he said. I nodded again. That sounds like a plan. He waited, like he expected more, an argument, emotion, resistance. The version of me he remembered would have given him all of that. At 22, when he removed me from the succession plan, I had fought. I had prepared arguments, brought evidence, laid out years of work in precise, undeniable detail. He listened then, the way people listen when they've already decided. I didn't do that this time. I didn't argue, didn't push, didn't break. I just smiled lightly and said, "The house looks beautiful." Then I walked away. Because some conversations are only worth having when you hold all the cards. I found my Uncle Frank out on the back porch, away from the noise, away from the celebration, just the quiet hum of voices behind the glass doors and the soft glow of lights strung between the oak trees my grandfather had planted decades ago. He handed me a glass of water without asking. "I'm sorry," he said. I shook my head. "Don't be." Frank studied me carefully. He'd spent 40 years around deals, watching people win, lose, lie, and pretend not to know. He knew how to read silence. "I've seen the quarterly reports," he said. "I know things aren't stable." I took a slow sip. The reports don't show everything. That was enough. He looked at me for a long moment, like he was putting pieces together in real time. Then he asked quietly, "You didn't just sit back and watch this happen, did you?" I met his eyes. I never just watch anything happen. He nodded, slow, thoughtful. "Does your father know?" "Not yet." Frank exhaled and turned toward the yard, staring out at the lights, the house, the illusion of everything being intact. After a moment, he said something that hung heavier than anything else that night. "Whatever you're about to do, be sure. You can't undo a family." For a second, I let that settle. Then the memories came, uninvited but familiar. Being 22, sitting across from my father, trying to prove I belonged. Watching my college fund quietly redirected to Derek's MBA while I took out loans. Landing a $15 million client for the company, only to watch my father introduce Derek as the lead. All the small, quiet fractures no one ever acknowledged. I looked back at Frank. "The family already took care of that part," I said. He didn't argue, just squeezed my shoulder and went back inside. I stayed on the porch a little longer, listening to the laughter after congratulations, my brother celebrating something I had kept alive for 18 months, while he was in another city playing golf and planning his next move. The Phoenix project. I had been thinking about that, because 3 weeks ago, I found something Derek never expected me to see. 3 weeks before that night in the living room, before the champagne, before the applause, I reached out to a name buried in a routine file. It wasn't even related to my family. I was doing due diligence for a client, just another mid-sized developer trying to expand into the Southwest. Standard review, nothing unusual. Until I hit the footnotes. 12 pages in, there it was. Garrison Properties, owned by a man named Todd Garrison, and attached to it, quietly, almost like someone hoped it would go unnoticed, a reference to a pending SEC inquiry. Inflated project valuations, misrepresented numbers used to secure investor funding. Nothing proven yet, but enough to make any serious investor step back. I flagged it, filed it, and moved on. It wasn't my case. At least, not then. 2 days later, I was sitting at my parents' kitchen table when Derek's phone lit up beside me, face up, no password, no hesitation. I wasn't snooping. I just looked. The message was short. Garrison confirmed, closing timeline Q1. Keep it quiet until the transfer is done. I read it once, then again, and everything clicked into place. This wasn't expansion. This wasn't growth. This was an exit. Derek wasn't stepping into the family business. He was planning to flip it, take ownership, hold it just long enough to make it clean, then sell it to Todd Garrison, cash out, and walk away. And what happened after that? That would be Garrison's problem. The employees, the projects, the reputation. All of it. Disposable.